You ever watch someone steal your life while the people who raised you clap for them? Because that's what happened to me. One night, my twin sister didn't just accuse me of something horrible. She handed my parents a story, and they treated it like a courtroom verdict. No questions, no, sweetheart, is this true? No, let's check the facts. Just instant punishment. I remember my mom's voice shaking, not from fear for me, but from fear of what the neighbors would think. And my dad? He didn't even look at me like his daughter. He looked at me like a problem that needed removing. Then my twin leaned in close enough that only I could hear her, and she whispered something that still makes my stomach turn. "You won't be missed. You'll be replaced." And she was right. By sunrise, I was out of that house with a bag of clothes and a reputation I didn't deserve. My parents told everyone I ran away out of shame. They told family friends I was unstable. They told my grandparents I was dangerous. And my twin? She moved into my room. She slid into my friendships. She told people she was the good daughter who stayed. For 3 years, I disappeared because I had no choice. And for 3 years, she lived my life like it belonged to her. But here's the part that should scare you. I didn't come back for revenge. I came back because I found something that proved she didn't just frame me, she built her entire identity on my destruction. So tell me, what would you do if your family begged for forgiveness after helping your twin erase you? Because the second I saw what finally exposed her, I realized the truth wasn't going to save me. It was going to burn everything down. And it started with one single background check. You think you know what betrayal feels like until it comes with your mother's signature on it. The night everything broke, it started like something small, a stupid argument, the kind families have and forget. My twin sister, Madison, and I had been tense for weeks. She had this new habit of acting like the victim in every room she walked into. If I laughed too loud, she'd flinch. If I disagreed with her, she'd act scared. It was theatrical, but my parents ate it up. That night, Madison was sitting at the kitchen table, twisting her hands like she was about to cry. My mom, Karen, kept rubbing Madison's shoulder like she was the wounded one. I walked in and said, "What is going on?" Madison looked up at me with wet eyes, and in the softest voice, almost sweet, she said, "Tell them the truth." My dad, Tom, turned his chair slowly like a judge. "The truth about what, Emily?" My stomach dropped, because the way he said my name, it wasn't love, it was suspicion. Madison stood up and said it. One sentence. A sentence that would take my entire life. She stole money from Aunt Linda's purse, and when I confronted her, she threatened me. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, because it was insane. I didn't do that. But Madison didn't stop. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. A bracelet. A bracelet Aunt Linda had been crying about for weeks. A family heirloom. And Madison held it up like she'd just found a murder weapon. My mom gasped. My dad's face hardened. I stepped forward, shaking. "Madison, what are you doing?" And that's when Madison did the most evil thing I've ever seen someone do with a face they were born with. She flinched, backed up, like I was about to hit her. My mom stood between us instantly. "Emily, you don't dare." "I'm not," my voice cracked. "I didn't steal anything." My dad stood up, slow and heavy. "Your sister doesn't lie." That was it. That was the moment I learned what I was worth in that house. A sentence, a decision made without evidence, a verdict delivered because Madison said the right words in the right tone. And then my mom said something I'll never forget. "If you did this, you can't stay here, not with our name." Our name, not their daughter, not their child, their name. Madison's eyes flicked to me. A tiny smile, a private victory. I grabbed the bracelet from her hand and shouted, "Where did you get this?" Madison screamed, not because I hurt her, because screaming was the point.
My dad grabbed my wrist so hard my fingers went numb. "Give it back," he said. "Now." I looked at my mother, waiting for her to see me, to hear me, to recognize her own daughter. She didn't. She just whispered, "Why would you do this to us?" And that word, us, didn't include me. Within an hour, my dad had shoved clothes into a bag. My mom stood at the door, crying like she was the one being punished. Madison stayed behind them, arms folded, face calm. As I stepped outside, my dad said, "Leave this now. Don't make this worse." Then Madison leaned forward and murmured, so only I could hear, "Next, I'm taking your friends." The door slammed. And right there, standing in the driveway under a porch light that suddenly felt like an interrogation lamp, I realized something even worse than being thrown out. They weren't just choosing her, they were letting her rewrite reality. And I had no idea how far she'd go until I tried calling my best friend the next morning and heard the words that proved Madison had already started. Because when Rachel answered, she didn't say Emily. She said, "Please don't call me again." And then she hung up.
Losing your home hurts. Losing your identity, that's a different kind of death. The next morning, I sat in my car outside a cheap motel, staring at my phone like it might suddenly tell me this was a nightmare. I had $15, half a tank of gas, and a family who had already started burying me while I was still breathing. I called Rachel again, straight to voicemail. So I called another friend, Brianna. No answer. Then Jake, the guy I'd known since middle school. He actually picked up. I didn't even say hello. I just blurted, "Madison's lying. Please tell me you don't believe." Jake cut me off. "Emily, why are you doing this?" My throat tightened. Doing what? He exhaled like I was exhausting him. "Stop harassing Madison. Everyone knows what you did." My hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. "I didn't steal anything. I didn't threaten her. She planted that bracelet." "Emily," Jake snapped, "I heard the voice message." I froze. "What voice message?" Silence. Then he said, "Madison sent it to the group. You sounded insane." My skin went cold. "What did it say?" Jake hesitated, then spoke like he was reading a warning label. "It was you screaming that you'd make her pay and that you'd ruin her. And then you said you wished she'd never been born." My mouth went dry. That wasn't me. I hadn't said any of that. But Madison and I had the same voice, the same rhythm, the same laugh, the same everything. If she recorded herself and claimed it was me, who would question it? Jake continued, almost gentler now, like he was talking to someone unstable. "Emily, just get help, please." Click. I stared at the wall until my eyes blurred. Madison wasn't just accusing me. She was building a case, a full character assassination, designed to make me look like the dangerous twin who finally snapped. And my parents? They weren't stopping it. They were participating. That afternoon, I tried to go back home, not to beg, just to get my documents, birth certificate, social security card, stuff you need to exist. I pulled into the neighborhood, heart pounding, and I saw my house. My house. Except the curtains in my bedroom window were gone, replaced, and in the driveway, my dad's car was there. I parked down the street and walked up like a stranger. Before I even reached the porch, my mom opened the door like she'd been waiting. Her eyes were red, her face tight. "Emily," she whispered, like my name was poison. "I need my papers, just my things. I'm leaving." She shook her head, panicked. "We already told everyone you ran away." I stared at her. "You told them that?" She flinched. "It was easier. It protects the family." "There's no family," I said. "Not for me." Then my dad appeared behind them, expression blank. He held out a folder. I grabbed it, hope surging, until I saw what was inside. Not my birth certificate, a printed page, a restraining order request.
My eyes snapped up. You're kidding. My dad's voice was flat. Madison doesn't feel safe. We need you to sign this and go. Madison stepped into view behind them, wearing my hoodie, the one for my college tour. She looked cozy in it, like she'd been waiting her whole life to put it on. And she said softly, "Please don't make a scene, Emily." A neighbor across the street was watching. That's when I realized Madison had planned this perfectly. If I yelled, I'd look guilty. If I begged, I'd look unstable. If I fought, I'd prove her point. So I swallowed the rage that tasted like blood and nodded. "Fine," I whispered. "I'm gone." Madison's smile barely showed, but it was there. As I turned away, my mom called after me, voice trembling. "Just give us time." I didn't turn back, because I knew what time meant. Time for Madison to erase me completely. And I was right, because 2 weeks later, I got the final proof that my sister wasn't just stealing my life, she was using my name. I found out when a job I applied for called me back and asked one question that made my stomach flip. "Emily, why does your reference list have Madison's email address?"
You don't realize how fragile your identity is until someone else starts wearing it like a mask. I stared at my laptop screen in the motel room, rereading the email from the hiring manager like the words might rearrange themselves into something less horrifying. "Hi, Emily. We tried contacting your references. One of the emails bounced back under the name Madison Carter. Can you clarify?" Madison Carter. My sister had always been Madison Carter. I was Emily Carter. So why was my reference list connected to her? I opened my old Google account, barely accessed since everything happened, and checked the sent folder. My blood ran cold. Job applications I never submitted, emails to friends I never wrote, a resume file updated with my name, my experience, and Madison's phone number. She had gotten into my accounts, and suddenly a puzzle piece clicked into place. Madison didn't just want me gone. She wanted to be the only twin that existed. I called the number listed on the resume. My hands shook as the line rang. Madison answered on the second ring, in my voice. "Hello, this is Emily?" For a second, my brain shorted-circuited. Hearing my own name spoken with my voice from my sister's mouth felt like watching someone steal your face. "Madison," I whispered. Silence. Then a soft laugh. "Aw," she said. "Are you still calling?" My nails dug into my palm. "Why are you doing this?" She sighed like I was boring her. "Because you don't get it, Em. Mom and Dad don't want two of us. They want the better one." "You framed me." "And they believed me," she said brightly. "That's the point." I swallowed, voice trembling with rage. "You're using my email, my contacts, my resume." She hummed. "I'm cleaning up loose ends." "What loose ends?" Her tone sharpened just a little. You're the loose end." Then she lowered her voice into something intimate and cruel. "You left. You disappeared. That's the story now. And when people forget you, I'll be everything you were supposed to be." My chest tightened. "That's insane." Madison laughed again. "Insane? Emily, you're the one who's unstable, remember? Everyone knows that." Then she dropped the line that made my stomach twist into knots. "By the way, I told them you threatened to come back." My breath caught. "What?" "I said you told me you'd hurt us, so if you show up anywhere near the house again," she paused, savoring it, "they'll call the police before you even knock." I stared at the stained motel carpet, mind racing. Madison had created a cage. If I stayed silent, she would take my life. If I spoke, she would make me look dangerous. What would you do? Would you fight the lie or survive it? I chose survival, not because I forgave, because I needed time. That week, I packed what little I had left and drove 2 states away. New city, new name on the lease, a tiny apartment above a laundromat that smelled like detergent and loneliness. I worked 2 jobs, diner shifts in the morning, cleaning offices at night. Every day I told myself, keep your head down, build a life, don't look back. But Madison didn't stop. Every few months, I'd get a message from someone I used to know. Are you okay? Why did you do that to your sister? Madison says you're getting help. Getting help? It was the prettiest way to call someone crazy. And the worst part, my parents backed her publicly. I saw it once on social media, one of those posts people make when they want sympathy. My mom had posted a photo of Madison holding her hand at a family barbecue. Caption, grateful for the daughter who stayed strong through so much. I wasn't mentioned, not even as a mistake. It was like I never existed. And I almost believed it myself until 3 years later when the call came, a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it until the voicemail hit and I heard my father's voice for the first time in years. Emily, please call us back. Something happened. We didn't know. I listened again and again. Then I heard the part that made my stomach drop to the ground. It's Madison, the police. They're asking questions.
The first time your family calls after 3 years isn't to apologize. It's because the lie finally got expensive. I sat on my couch, secondhand, springs poking through the fabric, staring at my phone like it was a grenade. My dad's voicemail kept replaying in my head. They're asking questions. Questions meant doubt. Doubt meant cracks. And cracks meant Madison's perfect story was starting to crumble. But I didn't call back. Not yet. Because I'd learned something in those 3 years. When you rush back into a burning house, you don't rescue anything. You just get swallowed by the smoke again. So instead, I did what I'd never done before. I started digging. I opened every old account I still had access to. I checked my credit report because if Madison was using my identity, I needed to know how deep it went. And there it was, a loan application filed under Emily Carter. Not mine. A new address, my parents' town, a job listed that I never had. My pulse pounded. Madison had been signing my name on paper. I called the bank. The woman on the phone asked routine questions, then paused. Miss Carter, can you confirm your current address? I gave her my city. She went quiet. That doesn't match what we have on file. My hands went numb. What address do you have? She read it out. My parents' street. Madison had officially tethered my name to her world. I hung up and sat in silence. And then something even worse hit me. If Madison ever committed a serious crime while using my identity, I wouldn't just be erased. I'd be buried under her consequences. That night, I finally called my dad back. He answered on the first ring like he'd been holding the phone. Emily? His voice cracked. Oh my God. I didn't soften. Not even a little. What happened? There was a pause, shuffling, like he covered the receiver. Then he said, It's Madison. She applied for a job at the hospital. I blinked. Okay. She failed the background check, he whispered. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Failed? My sister, the golden child, the perfect victim, failed a background check? My dad rushed on, voice panicked. They said something didn't match, like her records, her name, he swallowed hard, her identity. My nails dug into my palm. What did she do? He hesitated. They think she used someone else's information. They're investigating fraud. Fraud. My name. My life. I said, low and sharp, she used mine. Silence. Then, no, she wouldn't. I laughed, a cold laugh that tasted like grief.
You mean like she wouldn't frame me? Like she wouldn't steal my friends? Like she wouldn't convince you I was a criminal without asking me a single question? My dad sounded like he was drowning. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, I snapped. Then my mom's voice came on the line, sudden and raw. Emily, please, Karen sobbed. Come home, we can fix this. Fix? Like my life was a broken lamp? I closed my eyes. You already fixed it. You fixed it the day you chose her. She cried harder. We were scared. Of what? Of gossip? Of what the neighbors would think? Because you weren't scared to throw your own daughter away. My mom choked. We thought you stole it. Madison had the bracelet. And you didn't ask where she got it. The line went quiet. And in that silence, I heard something that changed everything. Madison's voice. Muffled. Angry. She's twisting it. Tell her to come back. Tell her to stop ruining this. My stomach tightened. She wasn't ashamed. She was furious that the lie was slipping. I leaned closer to the phone. Put her on, I said. My dad panicked. Emily, maybe not. Put her on. A beat. Then Madison came on, voice sweet as poison. Emily, she said, like we are old friends. Wow, look who finally crawled out of hiding. I didn't respond. Madison sighed dramatically. Listen, the hospital is overreacting. It's just paperwork. If you come home and tell them you're fine, tell them you're stable, then they'll stop looking. I froze. That's what she wanted. For me to return so she could use me as proof I was unstable, unreliable, anything to patch her story. And then she said the one sentence that confirmed she wasn't scared of being exposed. She was scared of losing control. Emily, she whispered, don't forget, I can ruin you again. My blood ran cold because this time I believed she could. And I realized the truth was coming, but it wasn't going to arrive gently. It was going to arrive like a knife. And I was about to decide whether to grab the handle or let Madison drive it deeper.
Madison thought she still had power over me until I found the first piece of proof she couldn't talk her way out of. After that call, I didn't sleep. I sat at my tiny kitchen table with a notebook, writing down every detail I remembered from the night I got thrown out. Every time Madison smirked, every time she flinched, every moment my parents chose the easier lie over the messy truth. Then I asked myself a question that changed the game. If Madison planted the bracelet, how did she get it in the first place? Aunt Linda. I hadn't spoken to her in years. She wasn't cruel like my parents, just passive. The kind of relative who avoids conflict so hard they become an accomplice. I found her number and called. Hello? It's Emily, I said. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. Oh, honey. That alone told me everything. She didn't say, how are you? She said it like she was talking to a ghost. I need to ask you something, I said, about the bracelet. Aunt Linda's voice went quiet. That bracelet caused so much trouble. Madison said I stole it, but I didn't. Did you ever actually see me take it? Long pause. No, she admitted. My grip tightened on the phone. Did you ever see Madison take it? Another pause, longer, and then she said, softer, I saw her in my bedroom that day. I froze. What? Aunt Linda exhaled like she'd been holding that secret for years. I didn't want to believe it, she whispered, but I remember her saying she was looking for her lip gloss. She opened my jewelry box. My skin prickled, and you said nothing. I didn't want to accuse her, she murmured. She cried so easily, and your mother always protected her. Protected her, even back then. I swallowed the rage and steadied my voice. Linda, did you tell anyone that you saw her? I tried,
she whispered. "I mentioned it to your mom once and she snapped at me. She said I was confusing Madison and you." I laughed, sharp and bitter. Convenient. My mom didn't just ignore evidence, she erased it. Aunt Linda hesitated. "Emily, are you safe? Madison said she said you were unstable." There it was again, the label Madison used like a leash. "I'm safe, but I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Write down exactly what you remember. Dates, details, everything. Email it to me." Aunt Linda went quiet, then whispered, "Okay." When the call ended, my hands were shaking, but this time not from fear, from adrenaline, because I finally had something real. Not feelings, not memories, a witness. But I needed more, so I did what Madison never expected me to do. I filed a police report, not against Madison yet, but about identity misuse and fraud connected to my name. The officer sounded bored at first, until I explained my twin had access to my old accounts and my family was suddenly calling after 3 years. His tone changed. "Ma'am, do you have anything in writing?" "Not yet," I said, "but I'm working on it." He gave me a case number, and that case number was a weapon, because now if Madison tried to claim I was harassing her, I had an official record of why I was asking questions. Then, 2 days later, Aunt Linda emailed me. Subject line, "The bracelet." I opened it, and my stomach dropped, because the email wasn't just a vague memory, it included a detail I'd completely forgotten. Aunt Linda wrote, "I remember Madison's sleeve was wet when she left my room, like she'd washed something quickly, and later, when I found the bracelet missing, the jewelry box smelled faintly of cleaning spray." Cleaning spray. Someone wiped prints. Someone planned this. And as I reread it, one thought slammed into my mind. If Madison wiped the bracelet, what else did she clean up? I started searching for anything digital from that night. Old group chats, photos, snap stories. Then I found something in a forgotten text thread from my mom. A message sent the morning after I was kicked out. It wasn't sympathy, it was instructions. "Don't contact Madison. We're changing the locks today." Changing the locks the next day? That wasn't fear, that was preparation. My parents didn't think they were protecting the family. They thought they were cleaning up a problem. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to find next. Video. Because if Madison staged that flinch moment in the kitchen, somewhere out there, a camera might have caught the part she couldn't fake, and I knew the only place that would have it. Aunt Linda's street had security cameras because her neighbor was obsessed with them, and I remembered it clearly now. The neighbor's house pointed straight at Linda's driveway, meaning if Madison walked out with that bracelet, there was a chance it was recorded, and if it was recorded, Madison's entire life was about to collapse in high definition.
The neighbor didn't want to help me until I told him whose reputation was about to explode. I drove back to my hometown for the first time in 3 years with one rule: don't let them see you coming. Because in a family revenge story, the worst move is giving the villain time to rehearse. I parked 2 streets away from Aunt Linda's house and walked like I belonged there. My heart was hammering so hard I could taste it. Across the street was the house I remembered, Mr. Harris, the neighborhood watchdog, the guy who always complained about trash cans being out too long, and the guy whose cameras caught everything. I rang his doorbell. He opened the door a crack, looked me up and down, and his expression shifted into recognition. "Oh," he said slowly, "you're Karen's daughter." I swallowed. "I'm Emily." His eyes narrowed like he was comparing me to a memory Madison had rewritten. "You," I heard, "left." I forced a small smile. "Yeah, I did." He started to close the door. "Wait," I said quickly. "I need to ask you something about your security cameras." That stopped him. He stared at me. "Why?" Because I wanted to scream, because my twin framed me and my parents helped her, but I didn't. I said, "Something was stolen from Linda's house 3 years ago. I'm trying to clear something up."
he scoffed. That family drama, I don't want any part of it. I leaned in, lowering my voice. What if I told you the person who stole it is still living in that neighborhood, pretending to be perfect? His eyes flickered. And what if I told you that when the truth comes out, it's going to involve police reports, identity fraud, and a public scandal? He hesitated. I could see it, the part of him that loved being right, the part that loved watching other people get exposed. He opened the door a little wider. "Come in," he muttered. His living room smelled like coffee and old carpet. He led me to a computer setup that looked like a mini police station. Screens, feeds, dates. "What date?" he asked. I gave him the day Aunt Linda's bracelet went missing, the same day Madison found it. Mr. Harris clicked through folders with a frown. "I don't keep everything," he warned. "Storage fills up." My stomach clenched. "What do you keep?" "Motion-triggered clips and anything I flagged." I watched his cursor move. Then he stopped. He leaned closer, and my heart stopped with him. "There," he whispered. On the screen was a clip, grainy but clear enough. Aunt Linda's driveway. A car pulled up. Madison stepped out, and then she looked around like she was checking for witnesses. I felt my throat tighten. Mr. Harris hit play. Madison walked to the back door. A few minutes later, she came back out, and in her hand, even through the blur, was something small and shiny. She shoved it into her pocket fast. Then she looked straight toward Mr. Harris's house, toward the camera, and paused, like she sensed it. I held my breath. Madison smiled. Not nervous, not scared, smug. Then she walked to her car and drove off. Mr. Harris looked at me slowly. Well, I'll be damned. I couldn't speak because all I could think was, my parents chose her and she wasn't even careful. Mr. Harris cleared his throat. "You want a copy?" I nodded so fast it hurt. "Yes." He exported the clip to a USB. Then he said, "But if you use this, you're going to start a fire you can't put out." I stared at the USB like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Good, it's time. I left his house shaking, half from vindication, half from fear, because having proof doesn't automatically mean people accept it, especially when your family has spent years telling everyone you're unstable. But I wasn't going to fight this in whispers anymore. I was going to fight it with receipts. I drove to a quiet parking lot and watched the footage again on my laptop. There it was, Madison stealing the bracelet, the moment she built my exile. And in the background, barely visible but present, was a reflection in the car window. Someone else standing near the house, someone watching Madison. My stomach flipped, because that silhouette was too tall to be Aunt Linda, too broad to be Madison, and suddenly I realized this might be bigger than my twin. Someone else knew, someone else watched her steal it, and said nothing. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart, and my blood ran cold, because I recognized the shape of that stance, that posture, that body. It looked like my father.
The worst twist isn't that Madison framed me. It's realizing someone helped her do it. I replayed the clip again and again until my eyes burned. The silhouette in the reflection didn't have a face, no clear features, but it had a shape I knew too well. The way the shoulders sat, the way the weight leaned onto one leg. My father's posture. I sat there in the car, breathing shallow, trying to convince myself I was reaching, that grief makes you see patterns that aren't real. But the feeling wouldn't leave, because if Dad saw Madison steal the bracelet, then he didn't just believe her lies, he helped bury the truth. And that meant the betrayal wasn't accidental, it was chosen. I didn't call my parents, not yet. Instead, I contacted the officer handling my fraud report and told him I had video evidence connected to the original accusation that drove me out. He asked one question: "Do you want to press this formally?" I stared at the USB. "Yes," I said, "I do." Then I made my next move. I went to Aunt Linda's house. She opened the door and froze like she'd seen a ghost. "Emily," she whispered. I stepped inside and the smell of her old candles hit me.
vanilla, and something sad. Aunt Linda kept wringing her hands. I should have called you years ago. Yes, I said simply. You should have. She flinched, tears rising, but I didn't soften. Not because I hated her, because I'd spent too long being the only one paying for everyone else's silence. I took out my laptop and played the clip. Aunt Linda's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God! She watched Madison walk in, walk out, shove the bracelet into her pocket. Then she started shaking her head violently. No, no, I knew it, I knew it. I paused the clip at the moment Madison glanced toward the camera. Linda, I said, voice low. Who else was home that day? Aunt Linda swallowed. Your dad picked Madison up. My stomach dropped. He was here? She nodded, eyes wide. He came in, had coffee. He was waiting while Madison used the bathroom. My fingers went cold. So he was present. He was near. He could have seen. And then Aunt Linda said something that made my heart slam against my ribs. He asked me about the bracelet. I turned sharply. What? Aunt Linda looked sick. He said Madison told him I'd lost it. He asked if I was sure it wasn't misplaced. My throat tightened. That wasn't ignorance. That was preemptive damage control. My father didn't just fail me. He helped Madison set the stage. I sat down hard on her couch, dizzy. Aunt Linda whispered, Emily, what are you going to do? I looked at the paused frame of Madison smiling at the camera. I'm going to let the truth do what it should have done years ago, I said. Destroy the lie. That night, I did something I'd never dared to do before. I messaged Rachel, my old best friend. I didn't beg. I didn't explain. I sent one thing, a screenshot of the video clip, Madison in Aunt Linda's driveway, bracelet in hand. And I wrote, Do you still think I stole it? Rachel replied 5 minutes later, I need to talk to you. We met at a diner just off the highway, neutral territory. Rachel walked in slowly, eyes scanning like she expected me to attack her. That hurt more than I expected. I slid my phone across the table and played the clip. Rachel watched, mouth slightly open. When it ended, she whispered, Oh my God. Then she looked up at me, eyes glossy. Emily, Madison told us you attacked her. I leaned forward. Did you ever see bruises? Rachel hesitated. No. Did you ever see proof I stole anything? No. Then why did you believe her? Rachel flinched like I slapped her. She cried, she said quietly, and your parents backed her. They said you were spiraling. Spiraling, that word again. Always the same narrative, always the same leash. Rachel wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. I watched her for a moment, then asked, What else did she tell you? Rachel's face tightened. She said you tried to get her expelled from school, that you hacked her accounts, that you threatened to hurt yourself and blame her. My stomach twisted. Madison had been planting seeds for years, not just to ruin me, but to make sure if I ever returned, no one would believe me. Rachel leaned in. Emily, there's something else. My pulse spiked. What? Rachel swallowed. I still have the voice message, the fake one, the one from me. And she said quietly, I never deleted it. I stared at her. Because if Rachel still had it, then I could finally prove Madison faked my voice. And if I could prove that, then my twin was not just a liar, she was a strategist, a predator. And the moment I opened that audio file, I was going to learn exactly how far Madison was willing to go.
The voice message was Madison's masterpiece, until we noticed the one mistake she couldn't hide. Rachel pulled out her phone like it was something dangerous. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled. I haven't listened to it in years, she admitted. It made me feel sick, but I couldn't delete it. Play it, I said. Rachel hesitated, then tapped the screen. My voice filled the space between us, sharp, furious, unhinged. I'm going to make you pay, Madison. You think Mom and Dad will save you forever? I'll ruin you. I swear I will. You should have never been born. Rachel hit pause, eyes wide. I'm sorry, it sounded like you. I swallowed. It sounds like me because it's built from me. Rachel blinked. What does that mean? I leaned forward. Madison and I sound identical. If she stitched together clips, if she recorded pieces, she could fake an entire message. Rachel's face went pale. Could she do that? She could, I said, and she did. Then I asked Rachel the question that mattered. When did she send it? Rachel checked the timestamp. The date was the morning after I got kicked out. My pulse jumped, because that meant Madison didn't just react to the fight. She was ready immediately, like she'd preloaded the lie. I said, "Send it to me." Rachel forwarded it, and when I looked at the file details, my stomach dropped. There were edits. Not visible to the average person, but the metadata screamed manipulation. The file had been saved, resaved, and exported. Rachel leaned in. What does that mean? It means it wasn't recorded and sent in one take. It was created. Rachel covered her mouth. Then she whispered, "Emily, we told the school counselor." My blood cold. The counselor? Rachel nodded. Madison said she was scared you'd hurt her. The counselor told your parents to take it seriously. And then, after you left, Madison started seeing a therapist. A therapist. That explained why Madison stayed untouchable. If she had a therapist backing her fear, she had credibility, a shield, a professional stamp. Rachel looked down. And she told us if you contacted us, we should block you because you were dangerous. Dangerous, unstable, spiraling. Madison didn't just steal my life, she medically branded me. I sat back, breathing slowly. This wasn't just sibling jealousy, this was psychological warfare. And yet, my parents still chose her. Rachel reached across the table. "Emily, what are you going to do?" I stared at the audio file. "I'm going to make her answer," I said. That week, I met with a lawyer. Not some flashy courtroom shark, just a calm woman named Janet who listened without interrupting. When I showed her the security footage, Aunt Linda's statement, and the edited voice message, Janet's eyes hardened. This is serious. Identity fraud, defamation, and potentially criminal impersonation. I swallowed. Can I get my life back? Janet's pause was too long. You can get justice, she said gently, but you can't rewind time. That line hit like a punch, because revenge doesn't heal, it exposes, and I was about to expose everything. Janet recommended one step before any legal escalation. Send a formal cease and desist and request Madison's records, employment applications, background check results, anything filed under my name. So we did, and 2 days later, Madison's response came. Not to Janet, to me. A message from a private number. "You really want to do this? I could end you. Come home alone. Let's talk like sisters." Like sisters. That phrasing made my skin crawl. It wasn't an invitation, it was a trap. I showed Janet. She nodded once. She's panicking. And panic makes people reckless. Then Rachel texted me something that made my breath catch. "Madison is telling everyone you're back. She says you're stalking her." My stomach tightened. Of course she was. She was setting the stage again, prepping the crowd, so if I spoke, she'd already labeled me the villain. But this time, I had proof, so I made a decision. I wasn't going to sneak back into their world quietly. I was going to come back in a way Madison couldn't control. A family gathering, one room, all witnesses. I asked Rachel, "When's the next time everyone's together?" She replied, "Next weekend, your parents are throwing Madison an engagement dinner." Engagement. My pulse spiked. Madison was about to lock her stolen life into place permanently. New last name, new future. And if I didn't stop it now, she'd walk into marriage wearing my ashes like perfume. So tell me, what would you do? Would you let it go? Or would you show up to the engagement dinner and burn it all down in front of everyone? Because that's exactly what I planned. And the only question left was, would my family finally recognize me? Or would Madison convince them to destroy me all over again?
An engagement dinner is supposed to celebrate love. I came to deliver a funeral of Madison's lie.
I didn't show up alone. That's the difference between the first time Madison destroyed me and the second time I walked into that house. The first time I had emotions. Now I had evidence. Janet arranged for a process server to be nearby in case Madison tried anything stupid. Rachel agreed to come as support. Aunt Linda, shaking but determined, said she would be there too. And me? I wore something simple. Black jeans, white blouse. Nothing dramatic. Because the drama didn't need help. It was already waiting behind that front door. When I pulled into the driveway, my hands went icy. The house looked the same, but I didn't. I walked up the steps, heart pounding, and knocked. Silence. Then the door opened and my mom stood there. Karen's face went through 3 expressions in 1 second. Shock, fear, and something like shame. "Emily," she whispered. Behind her, I could hear laughter, plates clinking, music low. A celebration happening in the ruins of my life. "I'm here," I said calmly. My mom's eyes darted to Rachel standing behind me. Why would you come here?" she choked out. I leaned in slightly. "Because you're about to celebrate Madison's future, and I brought her past." My mom's breathing turned frantic. "Emily, please, not tonight." "Not tonight?" I repeated, meaning not in front of witnesses. Her face crumpled. And that's when my dad appeared. Tom Carter, the man who signed my exile like paperwork. He stared at me like I was an illusion. "Emily," he said, voice rough, "we've been calling you." I nodded once. "I know." His eyes flicked to my hands, empty, like he expected a weapon. The irony almost made me laugh. Then Madison's voice floated from the dining room. "Who is it?" My stomach tightened. My mom tried to block the doorway. "Emily, we can talk tomorrow." I stepped forward anyway, and Madison walked into view. She looked beautiful. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, a ring sparkling on her finger. And she froze when she saw me. For half a second, her mask slipped. Her eyes flashed with pure hatred. Then she smiled wide, bright, fake. "Oh my God, Emily, you're here?" Every head in the dining room turned. Her fiancé, Derek, stood up, confused. Her friends stared like they were seeing a rumor come to life. Madison walked toward me slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal. "I was so worried about you," she said, voice dripping with sweetness. "We thought you ran away because you couldn't handle what you did." I didn't react. I just said, loud enough for everyone, "I didn't steal Aunt Linda's bracelet. Madison did." The room went dead. Madison's smile didn't move, but her eyes sharpened. "Emily," she said softly, "don't do this." I looked around at the faces watching me. Then I asked the room, "If someone stole from you, would you believe the person with evidence or the person who cries the loudest?" No one answered. So I pulled out my laptop. Madison's eyes widened, just a flicker. I opened the video file, and I hit play. The footage rolled. Madison's car, Madison walking in, Madison walking out, bracelet in hand. The room erupted. "What the? Is that Madison? No way." Madison's face turned white. Derek stepped forward, staring at the screen like his brain couldn't accept it. Madison snapped into performance mode instantly. That's not what it looks like." I paused the clip right as she smiled at the camera. "Funny, because it looks exactly like you." Aunt Linda stepped forward, voice trembling but clear. "I saw her in my room that day. I tried to tell Karen. She wouldn't listen." My mom's face drained of color. All eyes turned to her. My dad stepped back like the floor shifted. Madison's voice rose, sharp. "This is a setup. Emily is obsessed with ruining me. She's unstable." Rachel cut in loudly. "Then explain the edited voice message." Madison whipped toward her. "What?" Rachel held up her phone. "You sent us a fake recording. The metadata shows it was edited." The room went silent again, heavier. Derek stared at Madison like he'd never seen her before.
Madison's eyes flicked from face to face, realizing she was losing the room. Then she did the one thing she always did when cornered. She pointed at me and screamed, "See, this is why we were scared of her." My dad stepped forward automatically, like old programming. "Emily, calm down." I snapped. "No," I said, voice shaking but loud. "You calm down. You don't get to tone police me after you threw me out without questions." My mom burst into sobs. But Madison wasn't crying. She was calculating, and I saw it. Her hand slipped into her purse, slow, deliberate. My stomach dropped, because I knew Madison, and she wasn't reaching for tissues. She was reaching for something that would turn the room against me. And before anyone could stop her, she pulled it out and shouted, "I have proof Emily is lying."
Madison's proof was supposed to end me. Instead, it exposed the darkest part of her plan. The room froze as Madison raised what looked like a folded stack of papers, official-looking, stamped. She waved it like a flag of victory. "This," she said, voice trembling with fake emotion, "is a therapist's letter. It says Emily has a history of delusions and obsession with me." My stomach tightened. Of course, Madison didn't just build a lie, she built infrastructure around it, paperwork, professionals, documentation. Derek took the papers from her confused and pale. He skims the first page, then looked up. "Madison, this says patient reports fear of twin. It doesn't say Emily is diagnosed with anything." Madison blinked, thrown off for half a second. Then she snapped. "Because the therapist couldn't talk about her directly. Confidentiality." Janet, my lawyer, finally stepped forward from the side of the room, calm, steady. "I'm Janet Ellis," she said, "and that's not how confidentiality works." The room turned to her like a spotlight. Madison's eyes widened. "You brought a lawyer?" she hissed at me. I didn't answer, because my silence was the answer. Janet held out her hand. "May I see the letter?" Madison hesitated. That hesitation was everything, because if it was real, she'd shove it into Janet's hands proudly. Instead, she clutched it tighter. Janet's voice stayed polite. "I noticed the letterhead doesn't list a practice address, no license number either." The air shifted. People started murmuring. Madison's cheeks flushed. "It's real." Janet nodded once. "Then you won't mind if we verify it." Madison's eyes darted toward my parents, and that's when my mom broke. Karen stumbled forward, crying, "Madison, please, stop." Madison snapped her head toward her. "Stop? Mom, are you serious? After everything I did for you?" Everything. Not everything she survived, everything she did. My dad's face looked like someone cracked it open. "Madison, what does that mean?" Madison realized she'd slipped. She tried to soften her tone fast. "I mean, after everything I've been through." But it was too late. The room had tasted the truth. Then Derek spoke again, voice low and shaky. "Madison," he said, "why would you steal the bracelet?" Madison spun toward him, eyes blazing. "Because she was always a favorite," she shouted, pointing at me. "Emily got attention without trying. People liked her. Teachers liked her. Friends liked her. She didn't even have to fight for it." My throat tightened. So there it was. Not justice, not fear, envy. Madison's voice rose higher, cracking. "I spent my whole life being the second twin, the backup, the extra. And then I realized," she swallowed hard, eyes wild, "I could make everyone see her the way I saw her." My dad took a step back, horrified. "Madison, you lied to us." Madison laughed, sharp, broken. "You wanted a good daughter. I gave you one. You didn't care who was telling the truth, Dad. You cared who made you look good." Silence crashed down. That wasn't just an accusation, it was a confession. My dad's jaw trembled. My mom sobbed openly. Derek looked like he might throw up. I stood there, heart pounding, because this was the moment I had fantasized about for 3 years. Madison exposed. And yet, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like watching a disease finally show itself. Janet spoke again, steady. "Madison," she said,
We have evidence of theft, impersonation, and potential identity fraud. If you continue to escalate, this becomes criminal." Madison's eyes locked on me, and the look she gave me wasn't fear, it was promise. Then she said softly, too soft for most people to hear, "Fine, you want the truth?" She raised her voice again so everyone could. "I didn't just steal the bracelet." My stomach dropped. Madison smiled, wide and awful. "I stole her whole life because I could." The room fell into stunned silence, and Madison wasn't done. She pointed at my parents, "And you helped me." My mom gasped like she'd been stabbed. My dad went pale. Madison kept going, voice shaking with adrenaline. "I told you she was unstable. I told you she was dangerous, and you didn't even hesitate. You tossed her out like trash because it was easier to admit you raised a liar." My dad whispered, "We didn't know." Madison cut him off. "Yes, you did. You just didn't care." Then she turned toward Derek. "And you," she hissed, "you only loved me because you thought I was the victim." Derek stepped back, voice shaking. "Who are you?" Madison's smile vanished. "I'm the one who wins." Then she shoved past everyone, storming toward the hallway. My instinct screamed, "She's running!" But Janet's eyes sharpened. "Emily, she might be going for something." And right then I remembered. Madison always had a second move, a hidden card, and if she reached it before we stopped her, she could still flip the whole story back onto me. So I ran after her, down the hallway, past the framed family photos where I didn't exist anymore, toward my old bedroom, her bedroom now. And when I pushed open the door, I saw exactly what she was reaching for, a box stuffed with documents, and on top, a passport with my name on it.
The passport wasn't just identity fraud. It was Madison's escape plan, written with my name. Madison froze with the box half lifted, eyes wide like a thief caught mid-grab. Then she did something chilling. She smiled. "You're too late," she whispered. I stepped into the room slowly, blocking the doorway. My heart hammered as I stared at the passport on top of the pile. Emily Carter. My name. My stomach turned. "What is that?" I asked, voice low. Madison's fingers tightened around the box. "Insurance," she said simply. "A way out." "A way out using my identity," I snapped. She shrugged, like it was nothing. "You weren't using it." The audacity nearly knocked the air out of me. Behind me, footsteps thundered. My dad, Derek, Janet, Rachel. My dad pushed past and saw the passport. His face crumpled like paper. "Madison," he whispered, broken. "What did you do?" Madison's eyes flashed with rage. "What I had to." Janet stepped forward, calm but deadly serious. "Put the documents down, now." Madison laughed, short and sharp. "Ha, no." She clutched the box and backed toward the window. For a second, the room felt unreal, like we were characters in someone else's nightmare. Then Madison pointed at me and hissed. "You think this makes you whole again? It doesn't. You're still the twin they threw away." My mom's voice broke from the hallway. "Madison, stop." Madison's eyes cut to her. "You don't get to tell me to stop after you let me do it." My mom sobbed, collapsing against the wall. And my dad looked like he aged 10 years in 10 seconds. He stepped forward slowly, palms out. "Madison, please, just give it to us. We can what? Fix it?" She spat the word like it was a joke. "You can't fix 3 years of erasing her. You can't fix the way you looked at her like she was a disease." Then she turned back to me, eyes bright with something that wasn't tears. It was triumph. "You want to know the best part, Emily?" she whispered. "Even now, a part of them still wants to believe you're the problem." My stomach tightened because I knew she was right.
My parents had spent years living inside Madison's version of reality. People don't escape that easily. They don't admit they ruined their own child without trying to blame someone else. Janet took one step forward. Madison bolted. She shoved the window up and climbed halfway out. Rachel screamed, "Madison!" Derek lunged toward her. "What are you doing?" Madison kicked backward, knocking Derek into the dresser. And in that split second, my body moved before my brain could. I grabbed Madison's wrist. Her skin was cold. She whipped around, eyes blazing, and for the first time, no audience, no mask. She looked exactly like what she was, a person who didn't see me as a sister. She saw me as competition. She yanked hard, trying to break free. "Let go," she snarled. "Give me back my life," I hissed. Madison's expression shifted into something almost amused. Then she whispered the most terrifying thing she'd said all night. "You can't get it back, but you can lose it again." And she twisted. Her nails dug into my wrist, pain sharp and hot. I gasped and loosened my grip for half a second, and Madison slipped free. She jumped out the window and hit the ground outside, rolling. Then she ran. My dad shouted her name, stumbling after her. Derek chased too. Janet grabbed my arm. "Don't," she said. "Let them. We need to secure the evidence." Evidence. The word snapped me back, because Madison running wasn't the end. It was proof. It was guilt. And when Janet opened the box Madison dropped, papers scattering across my old bed, my throat tightened. There were multiple IDs, multiple applications, multiple versions of my life rewritten into hers. Rachel picked up a document and read out loud, voice shaking. "This is a lease agreement under Emily Carter's name." My blood ran cold. Madison hadn't just stolen my name to get a job. She had built an entire parallel life with it. A second Emily, on paper, living inside my parents' house. And then Janet lifted one final paper from the bottom of the box. A typed statement, signed. By my father. My dad. A statement supporting Madison's original accusation against me, not just believing her, backing her, legally. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me, because if my dad signed that, then the silhouette in the window reflection wasn't a coincidence. He wasn't just a coward, he was involved. And now the truth wasn't just about Madison, it was about the two people who were supposed to protect me, and instead helped her erase me.
Here's the part nobody tells you about revenge. It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like finally breathing after drowning, then realizing you'll never get those years back. Madison was found 2 days later. Not because she confessed, because she tried to use my passport, my name, again. And when authorities matched the fraud report I'd filed, the video evidence, and the stack of documents from that box, her story collapsed. My parents called me nonstop, crying, begging, saying words like mistake and confused and we didn't know. But I kept hearing Madison's voice in my head. "You won't be missed. You'll be replaced." And the worst part is, she was right for a while. My family didn't lose sleep when I disappeared. They hosted dinners, took pictures, celebrated milestones, with Madison in my place. So when they asked me to come home, to be a family again, I did the one thing they never expected from the daughter they threw away. I chose silence. Not because I'm weak, because I finally understood my worth doesn't require their approval. And if you've ever been the scapegoat in your own family, you know exactly what I mean. So let me ask you, if your family chose your twin over you without questions, would you forgive them when the truth came out, or would you walk away for good? If you want more emotionally intense family revenge stories like this, where the truth hits like a train, subscribe and turn on notifications, and comment silence if you think walking away was the real revenge.
Because sometimes the loudest comeback is simply refusing to return.